right, welcome back to the Peak State Podcast. I'm your host, Billy Moat. Got Greg Moat here with me, your other host. Today, we're going to be talking about what we recommend you look for when you are trying to commit to the right college baseball program for you. There are a lot of different variables that go into it that players don't keep in mind or they're just not aware of. And ultimately, the most important thing in your career, besides learning how to control your thoughts and play with certainty and to play in Peak State, is to find the right program for you so that you have the right coaching staff and the right environment for you to go out there and be your absolute best at all times. So let's just dive right into this. What do you think is the most important piece for you when looking, or for when guys are trying to look for the right college baseball program?
That's a tough question to answer. We're going to get into a lot of different things that you need to be aware of, things you need to search for. But I'd say if I had to put my finger on one, I'd say slow down and be patient.
Yep.
Because I get it. It's tough. You're out there waiting to be recruited, waiting to be contacted, and all of a sudden when it starts happening, it's very easy to panic and start freaking out. What if I don't take this offer, if I don't jump in, they're going to give it to somebody else. You can't approach being recruited from that scarcity mindset. You
Agreed.
just can't do it. That's when you start making mistakes, in my opinion.
And what's unfortunate about that is, a lot of coaches give you an offer, right? Whether you're on a visit or over the phone, and then they're like, hey, you have 24 hours or you have until the end of the week. And if we don't hear from you, then that offer's expired. What the hell is that? I mean, you cannot do that.
Well, I mean, you get what they're doing, right? They're trying to build up that fear of loss. Fear of loss is a huge motivator for all of us.
Yeah.
Even the most squared away, meaning you have enough experience to see it for what it is. Even when you know they're doing it to you, it still works. It's that effective because the fear of loss is just, it's so strong, man.
Sucked me in hard twice. Got me when I committed to Baylor, went on the visit, got the offer, and they're like, hey, you only have a couple days. And I was in that scarcity mindset. It was a tough summer. Didn't hear from a lot of programs that I thought I was going to hear from. Had one school pull a visit/offer away, although I had some other ones coming up after Baylor that could have been a really great opportunity for me. But I fell in love with the entire spread. Fell in love with it, and then when he rushed me, I'm like, oh, shoot. Well, I mean, it's important that I get back to these guys so that they can find someone else. Like, I was looking at it from a different lens, a different angle, and I obviously rushed into it and committed. Not that that was a mistake, but I did get timeline like that hard, and we all kind of fell for it.
But you know what? The way I remember that, it didn't matter if they would have timelined us or not there. When Rod made that offer, like, Baylor checked every box, man.
Yeah.
Plus, it was just awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Everything about that place was awesome.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
So timeline or no, you were still going to jump all over that.
That's a fair point.
When you said, I want to play Big 12 baseball in Texas, that kind of limits your options, right?
Yeah, narrows it down. Yeah, narrows it to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like that's a huge, huge piece right there. Be patient. Do not fall in love with some place without truly thinking about it. And do not operate out of that scarcity mindset, because you might choose the wrong program out of desperation or self-inflicted desperation when there's a lot of other programs out there that A, haven't had a chance to talk to you, or B, haven't seen you play yet. So,
yeah, and it's tough because I can speak from a parent's perspective. Like, I knew you guys were good enough to play at that level, right? Mm-hmm. I knew it. But you're just desperate for somebody else to validate what you feel you already know.
Yep.
And as a player, I'm sure that's probably just as strong, if not stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So it really comes down to what we're focusing on going into that visit, going into that conversation. Because if the entire goal is to sell yourself so that you get an offer, your brain stops evaluating them.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? You're so caught up. And I get it. Everybody wants an offer because we're all desperate for that validation.
Of course.
But we have to somehow shift our mindset to make sure that we're evaluating them just as much as they've been evaluating us.
No doubt. And that's something I've told a couple guys that have reached out when I had a few guys saying that they are struggling to commit to the right program. They've watched the videos and they want to make sure that they choose the right program for them, but they were just having a hard time making sure that it was the right one. And then they were kind of nervous about visits coming up. And I told them all the same thing. I said, when you get an offer to come on a visit, whether it's unofficial or official, and they've seen you play and they've talked to you, your job for the most part is done. It's now their turn to prove what they can offer you, whether or not what they're about and what they teach and what their morals are and whatever their entire philosophy of the game. It's up to them to show you that that fits you as a player. And most guys don't see it that way. They're like, oh man, I got to go in and make sure that I'm, shaking their hand and looking them in the eye and being super nice, which, yes, obviously that comes with meeting anybody and showing respect, but they're still going in there trying to impress that coaching staff when really they saw you play and you played well. They want you over there, so your job's pretty much done.
Yeah, I love that. And I wish that I had thought that way going into it.
Yep.
I do love that. It totally shifts the tone of the conversation because, like you said, the hard work on your end is already done.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not focused on me and how I present myself and trying to sell, then you can really find out who they are.
Yep.
You can hone in on not just what they say in response to your answers, but how they're saying it, reading them like at a damn poker table. And I wish that the situation was more above board where everybody would just say what they mean and be honest about who they are and what they believe. But man, that's just not how it works right now. Their job is to get you on campus. As you said, they already believe in you or they wouldn't be spending 3 hours on a Saturday having you on campus.
Right.
That's time away from their families and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Other stuff they could be doing. But that's just the way it is now. We've got to sift through their responses and find the truth.
That's why I think it's so important for young players that go on visits to either have one of their parents be the one that you have a conversation with them early if they don't know exactly what they're getting into. So parents that haven't gone on a visit with their kid yet, tell them, hey, I need you to be paying attention to everything you can. Like later on in my career, because I was recruited, 3 times because of, transferring. And with Bubba, you did the same thing. You literally were just bulldogging, keeping notes, keeping your eyes and ears open for everything, which was incredibly important and was the reason why we eventually found the right program for both of us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but we still got it wrong.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Didn't we?
We did.
And it was old hat by the time Bubba was coming through and doing this, but we still got that wrong.
Yep. Which is why we've made this damn podcast.
Yeah.
And which is because we've made a lot of mistakes throughout this process. I don't think if everything would have gone to plan for both of us, for all 3 of us, I don't think we would have made this podcast or what we're doing because it wouldn't have come into our minds. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we would have had no motivation, no inspiration to do it.
Exactly.
And we're not coming from a place of being, bitter.
No,
and
not at all.
We're not red-assed over it. We just want guys to know what's really happening out there and give them everything that we can give them so that it turns out to be like an awesome, wild ride instead of a frustrating shit show.
Yep. And that's what college baseball has become for the majority of players. I mean, how many guys have we talked to that have come to me saying, man, like, I'm having a blast doing this. Like, I'm playing like myself. I'm confident. I'm cocked up. It doesn't happen. Now, there have been a few, and those have been guys that have wanted to come on the podcast, and talk about whether or how good their experience is or how bad it was and how they've turned it around. But it is possible to choose the right program for you and go out there and play with total confidence and belief in yourself, knowing that you made the right decision. It is entirely possible, which is why we are doing this to help you guys get to that point. But unfortunately, guys don't think that way all the time.
And it's possible, and it's a hell of a lot more likely if you've got the tools to navigate it, to shift your focus and not get defeated along the way, because there's a lot of stuff that can pull you down pretty quick.
Yep.
And that's why we're doing it.
Yep.
but we're not jaded about it, right? We're just excited about the opportunities, and we're also excited to tell you the truth about what's really happening out there.
Yep.
Because I don't see much of that out there. I don't think that's available for guys.
No.
Apart from
unfortunately not.
one-on-one conversations.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Going back to it. So making sure that you are patient through that process, right? That's a big number one. It's crucial. For me, number two, I think it's important for guys when they go to commit to a program, if they go in the fall, or really anytime they go, they have to figure out how many guys they bring in each fall, how many guys are at their position, and how deep they are, because it's not always a bad thing. If you go into a program, they've got 65 guys on the roster and there's 7 dudes at third base. We're not saying that if you go into that situation, you're not going to be the guy. Like, you might be better than those other 6 guys. But going into a program where there are 2 or 3 guys at that position is a hell of a lot better, not only for practice and reps, getting reps, but it also gives you a heck of a lot better chance to go out there and be the guy, especially if you're younger.
But let me ask you this. Thinking back on your experience, thinking about on Bubba's experience, let's say there are 7, 8 guys at third base. Do you really think that there's a true evaluation in the fall to where that coaching staff really has a good idea of who all of those 7 or 8 third basemen are?
No.
Do you think there's a true evaluation?
No shot.
And that's why we have enough frustration, I guess, to spend this much time away from everything else that we do that actually makes us money to do this. Because to me, that sucks, man. That's brutal.
Yep.
You can be the best guy there and not be able to show it because you don't get a true evaluation. Yep. This guy's a god against the machine, right? He can just open up, time it, and find barrels, spray in barrels.
Yep.
Left and right. And perhaps you're a better hitter than that guy in game. You got a better move, but you just don't hit off the machine as well. Are you going to get the opportunity to show that?
Probably not.
You better find out going in, though, right? I mean, this is stuff you got to be looking for.
Yep. And unfortunately, guys probably are not going to get a chance to find out that information just by talking to the coaching staff. It's probably not going to happen.
No.
But that's not always the case. Some coaching staffs are going to be straight up with you, right? But if you really want to get all that knowledge and all that information, that's why I've said it 100 times. Talk to players that have already been through the program, that are either dudes that have played for at least a year, that will be honest with you. And this might be pushing it a little bit, but I would not ask the coaching staff for the players' numbers, because a lot of the times they're gonna give you the numbers of guys who they know are loyal.
Yeah, they're going to toe the party line and just tell you what the coaches want.
Which is the mistake I made at Creighton.
Yep.
I asked them. I thought I was doing everything right, and they gave me the numbers of the guys that were the coach's guys.
Yeah.
And they told me what I wanted to hear, and it ended up being wrong. But yes, getting the phone numbers of guys, asking them those questions. Hey, how many dudes are going to be in there in the fall? You know, and I feel like that's a crucial piece of information that a lot of players don't look for.
If you, at the very least, do the research and know the answer to that question. Because if you, at that point when you commit, if you asked the question, you did the research, and you knew that there was this guy, this guy, this guy coming in, all at your position, and there was this guy and this guy coming back, returners, you did what you could. Now, you may still show up on campus, and that picture looks totally different.
Yep.
But at least you did everything you could in that situation, and you made a choice at that point that was informed. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Because you don't want that regret.
No. And that's it is a heavy thing when you show up on campus and you might have not asked the right questions or rushed into something out of desperation or a scarcity mindset and realize that it's not the program you thought you were committing to. That is a dark feeling that I do not wish upon any player out there. Because I straight up, although I thought I did everything I could, when I got there and I realized it was wrong, I felt absolutely trapped and I was kicking my own balls in, thinking, "Damn,
Yeah, you feel like an idiot.
yeah,
Why didn't I ask the question? Why didn't I slow it down and ask like just common sense, simple questions?
yep,
You don't need that. You don't need that hanging over you.
no." And when it comes to that same topic of slowing it down and making sure that you are asking the right questions and you are in the right frame of mind so you can look at things objectively when you're on your visit, the same thing applies for when you talk to coaches on the phone. Because early on, like sophomore year of high school, when I started hearing from some decent D1 programs, I would have conversations with them over the phone, and I would get off the phone and not remember most of the conversation because I was so scatterbrained and rattled.
You were geeked.
I was geeked,
Yeah.
exactly. And a lot of players find themselves in that situation. Like parents ask or your coaching staff asks, from summer ball, "Hey, saw you talk to Michigan State. How'd that conversation go?" "Oh, yeah, it went well." "Well, what do you say?"
I blacked out.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't remember shit.
Which
Yeah.
happens, man. And that's why controlling your state is the most important thing you can do, not only on the field, but off the field, because you want to make sure that you are slowed down and calm enough and in the right state to make the best decision for you.
Yeah, just be comfortable in your own skin, man. You are who you are. Talk to the person as you would talk to anybody else with respect and just be you. But you got to listen.
Yep.
You got to listen more than you're talking on those.
100%. Because on that first phone call, most of the time they'll ask you about you, right? It's always asking you 100 different questions about you, your grades, what are you looking for, what's your timeline, all that stuff. But after that first phone call, that's when you can start asking questions and being like, okay, what are you guys about? You now realize what I'm about and what my family's about, but what do you have to bring to the table?
Yeah, because what you're ultimately, like big picture, what you're searching for is a fit. And I'm talking culture. The biggest thing, you asked me first, what's the biggest factor? What's the single most important thing? And I said, staying patient. It's staying patient so that you can find the culture that fits with you.
Yep.
And I really think, so we've given two things so far. I think culture has to be number 3, right?
Huge.
It has to be, because you can ask the right questions, right? You can have tons of in-depth dialogue about hitting philosophy and what their approach is and what they teach. But you need to know, if that guy says, "Hey, we're process over outcome," I think everybody says that now.
Oh, yeah.
But a true process over outcome guy doesn't shit the bed and panic when the outcomes aren't meeting his or her expectations,
Phenomenal. Yep.
right? You need to know if that guy's truly process over outcome. What you don't need is a guy just sucking all the oxygen out of the room every time somebody strikes out because the outcomes haven't been there. That is stuff you got to know.
That is incredible.
Right?
Yep.
That's it. That's the big thing, in my opinion.
No doubt, because there is nothing worse. And I've talked to a lot of programs throughout my college baseball career trying to find the right one, because I transferred technically twice, not including junior college. I've been to 4 schools. I realized that when I asked a coaching staff about that, like, what do you guys teach offensively? What is your philosophy? When they say that they're not a cookie cutter program, that just puts my heckles up immediately, dude. Because any coaching staff that says that we're not a cookie cutter program, a lot of the times they are a cookie cutter program, and you can find that out if you show up on campus and you look, and all the hitters are freaking chopped down, looking desperate, defensive,
trying not to strike out every
exactly,
at bat. Yeah.
just playing with fear. Because that I don't care how good you are, that can affect you 100%. And if you go in with a different looking swing, field the ball just a little bit different, throw it a little bit different on the mound. If you commit to a program where all those players look the same on that field, you're screwed.
They're going to change you
No doubt.
to look like those other guys.
Exactly. And in fairness, sometimes changing you might be what you need to get better, sometimes. But that's a very dangerous path to take.
Yeah, that cookie cutter thing, we figured that out pretty quick.
Yep.
And in fairness, we've made a deep dive collectively into understanding how hitters move.
Yep.
I mean, a deep dive. I've spent an embarrassing amount of time on that. But I was fortunate enough to be pipelined into some guys that get it,
Yep.
that have a really good understanding. So when we hear cookie cutter, right, we're not a cookie cutter type. That means that there's probably not really a foundation for how they teach guys. So what that tells me is when you start losing and when guys start striking out, it's gonna become all about not striking out, putting the ball in play, which means that most of your work is going to be defensive stuff designed to get you to chop and fight and hack and just throw hands to put a ball in play and move it.
Yep.
Because if they truly had a foundation and they knew how to teach guys how to drive the baseball and hit balls into the gaps and hit with power, that's the moment that they would probably share that philosophy. So that's why we have some suspicion over hearing that not cookie cutter thing.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree? That's
Yep.
I felt like we need to give some context on that, you know.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time working with really good guys in this game, and we took, this was after freshman year at college at Baylor. We took that time, learned from Casey Fisk, learned from other guys. You guys went to
Leaker at 108. Yeah.
Yep, the farm system guys too. I mean, we've also taken stuff from them, and then we've formed all that together into our own because we know what worked for me as a hitter, how I moved and how Bubba moved. And then that led into finding out how other guys moved, whether it was my teammates, you working with them, guys in summer ball, other hitters. So yes, we do have a little bit of a deeper knowledge, I guess you could say, which led to us wanting to ask those questions because I don't think that those questions really even pop into a lot of players' minds because they just don't know.
No, but it would be awesome if you, as a hitter, for example, if you found a guy, a hitting program, meaning a hitting guy at that program that can teach you how to drive the baseball.
Yep.
If you need that help. Because if they're not talking about the foundation for how they help develop hitters to drive the ball, then you're probably going to get fed a bunch of stuff that you got to fight off to move the baseball, because that's what everybody falls back to when they get into panic mode. When you're not producing runs and guys are striking out, they think the answer is to just make sure that nobody's striking out. Well, guess what? The best way to avoid striking out is to hammer early in the count.
Yep, go up there cocked up.
Yeah, and drive a baseball.
Yep.
And if you're moving well and you've got that attack mindset, you're going to strike out far less because you're being so aggressive early. So find that out.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't have that philosophy, that foundation of developing hitters, it's going to be all about not striking out.
You do not want to play.
Shit hits the fan.
Exactly. You do not want to play this game out of a 4A coaching staff that gets desperate and hits the panic button early. And I've played for teams that hit the panic button early, and I've played for teams that go the other way. Be like, all right, we didn't swing it well that game. That was a fluke. Let's go out there and just absolutely piss on baseballs tomorrow. And that happened to be the team that was one of the greatest NAIA college baseball teams in history. I mean, straight up. I mean,
those guys are phenomenal.
Yeah, it was amazing. So yes, finding a program that has the right culture for you. And I think another piece when it comes to culture and finding the right program is you got to make sure that if you're committing as a freshman and shoot maybe even a transfer, because there are sophomores transferring now to D1 to D1 somehow, you have to make sure that it's not one of those, and this might be a little harder to find out, but you got to make sure that program does not belittle and shit on freshmen repeatedly. Now, I'm not talking about like the normal, hazing freshmen stuff. I loved that stuff. Like, I enjoyed it because it was fun, man. But you don't want to be a part of a team that tells freshmen to shut the hell up and keep your mouth shut and play small on that field, because that's how you can. That is a one-way ticket to getting your belief and all that shit shut down early if you are a part of a program like that. That's at least my opinion.
Yeah, just avoid it when you can. Now, if you're one of those guys who find yourself in that situation and you weren't able to screen that out and end up at a place, you're already there. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're already there, you got to figure it out. You got to fight through it. You got to manage your state, use your physiology, use your focus, use these tools, because you can't just wish it away. It is what it is. You got to deal with it head on.
Yep.
Be a good sport about it. I dealt with it, shining senior shoes on road trips, and I thought, you know what? You're trash, dude. You're hitting 119, and I'm shining your shoes. Like, you suck. I'm better than you.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But that was my own internal dialogue. I didn't say that out loud. I was a freshman, so I shined his shoes. But inside, I'm laughing like, all right, dude, well, I'm better than you. You know, that's just the way I was. The point is, you can't just crawl into a corner if you find yourself dealing with it now. Just like you can't with any of the other things we've talked about.
No doubt. And what you just touched on right there is something that I wasn't planning on talking about, but I've seen some stuff on social media recently and heard from guys that I feel like it needs to be said. I hate this concept as a player that you can't be too high or too low. I hate that shit. You have to go up there. If you just pounded the ball in the gap, you know, a bases clearing double, get fired up, dude. Get fired up. I hate that shit when guys are having success offensively or on the mound or whatever it is, hot streak, just swept the series. Like, all right, guys, stay calm here, you know, just stay even, bullshit. And I get it. You don't want to be too down, fine.
Yeah, you never want to go too low. Yeah.
Which, yes, but you can go out there and be on absolute fire at all times, no matter what. Just as long as you keep that fire when things aren't going your way on the field. But
Yeah.
I hate that. Hate it.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I understand it. I get the philosophy. I understand what they're saying. But in my opinion, when the results have not been good, that's when you've got to be on fire even more.
Yep.
Now, do you have to be that guy that's showing? You know, it's with those guys, I think it's theater. But internally, yeah, you got to be there. You got to cock up, especially when things aren't going well.
That's a lot better way of putting it than what I
Yeah.
just did. Yeah.
Well, I know what you're saying, and I also understand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't love it. You know what I mean? It's not my thing.
But that's the unfortunate thing about where college baseball is at a lot of programs. They don't even register to instill belief in their guys, especially when stuff breaks bad. They bring a bunch of guys in, and they're like, okay, what can this guy do for me right now? And if he's a freshman or a transfer and he's not banging the ball around the yard from day one and he takes a little bit of time to get comfortable and find his way, a lot of the times he's already written off and they're hopping in that portal or just pushing him aside and being like, okay.
Next.
Yep. It's sad. It's frustrating.
And that's why we're doing what we're doing. You got to have the tools to bring your best every single day, and you got to take advantage of the opportunities that you're given. Now, that being said, I think it's just tragic that guys aren't getting a chance to get comfortable before they get sorted out. Yep. So we're not trying to make you guys, you know, your buttholes pucker up in fear here.
No.
That's not what we're after. You've got to go there and do you, but you got to do you early. Yep. I'd love it if you had tons of time to get comfortable, but if there's 8 guys, you could get sorted pretty quickly.
Yep. And
it's tough, you know.
I know. And college baseball is different than high school baseball or summer ball, right? It is a little bit of a different environment. You got morning weights, you know, team practices are much longer. It's just taken a lot more serious, right? But it's still the game you've been playing your entire life. So you're not walking into some completely foreign land where you have to completely scrap everything and find your way. You just have to know who you are as a player going in so that when you step foot on campus, you can go out there and play cocked up and with belief because you know who you are and what you're about.
Yeah, and to put this into the context of what to look for in a program, what we're talking about here, it would be great if you could dig deep, ask the right questions, and find a coaching staff, particularly for hitters, but it's the same for pitchers, who are truly process over outcome. They don't panic. They look to instill belief in their guys when things get tough, when the outcomes aren't good, guys aren't hitting, you're not scoring runs. They don't panic. They don't press that panic button, suck all the oxygen out of the room. It's great if you can dig, do everything you got to do, talk to everybody you can to get the real skinny on whether this coaching staff are those guys or if they build their guys up. Everybody wants to play for the guys who are going to build you up. They don't panic. The true process over outcome guys. So do everything you can to find out. But if you're already there and you're locked in, that's when you rely on the tools to set that shit aside, use your physiology, use your focus, and just cock up and do you in spite of them pressing the panic button.
Yep. Good. And one way that I think that players can look for that when it comes to, stuff going on their visit. So when they're trying to make sure that they are finding a program with a coaching staff that instills belief in their guys, hopefully when you go on your visit, you can go watch a practice or a game, right? If those guys are having fun, they're freaking taking hacks, they're being aggressive and in and out in between innings, they're laughing, having a good time, chatter in the dugout, that is a very good indicator as to what that coaching staff is about. Because if those players are all freaking tight buttholed and look scared to death and look miserable, I feel like that's a guarantee. Nope, I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do that when important recruits are in town, those coaches are on their best behavior.
Oh, of course.
You're not going to get the real energy level because they flip their own switch, right, when guys that they want are in town on visits. So wander out there, watch a game when you're anonymous, when they don't know you're there.
That's good.
And if you see a guy strike out in an R3L2 situation and you see the third base coach stomping his feet like a little baby over there when a guy swings through, a 2-1 slider, rolls over on it or something, and he's stomping his feet, you'll start to get an idea. Yep. And we can all tell when guys are playing not to lose, to not lose, when they're swinging to not strike out, because that is a recipe to absolutely despise your college baseball career.
Yep.
You want to find a guy where they're up there absolutely freed up on both sides of the baseball. And you can tell if it's a rigid, formal environment and everybody's trying to look a certain way in and out or between innings and ground balls, you can normally feel that out if you're paying attention. Yep. Wouldn't you say?
1,000%.
Find a place where they're freed up and having a blast.
Yep, that's good. Yeah, and I didn't really think about that when it comes to just going out when you're on your visit and watching. You're right. Guys do put on a show. Coaching staff will put on a show a lot of the times. And sometimes players feed off that energy. You're like, oh, okay, coaching staff's in a good mood today. Like, okay, let's go. So, yeah, that's good. I'm really happy you mentioned that.
Yeah, and to coaching staffs out there, I get it. I mean, your career is based on wins and losses, so I understand that's how you feed your family. But freaking out and pressing the panic button, that shit doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the starters. It doesn't help the guys on the bench. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anybody. In order for your guys to produce, they need to believe in themselves. And yes, we'd love it if they all just did it by default. But maybe our job every now and then becomes picking them back up and getting them to believe in themselves.
Yep.
As a hitting guy, when I was at Heartland with Mets, that's all I did. I didn't dig in with the intricacies of the swing at all. It was all about building guys up.
Mm-hmm.
And every hitter wants that.
Oh, yeah.
Every hitter would love that. But if you're a hitter, don't expect it.
Yep. Good.
Right? Don't expect it.
Yeah, it's rare.
We want you coming from a position of power, and if you expect it and don't get it, you're going to be crushed. But if you go in there not expecting it and you get it, oh, great. Then you're lucky.
Yep. Yep, that's good.
Be grateful.
Yep. So finding the right program for you, being calm, making sure the culture is good, making sure that that coaching staff instills belief in their players. I feel like another thing is you can have a coaching staff that instills belief in your players, but their philosophy offensively might be a little different than what you're looking for. So I guess for an example, you could be a big power guy offensively, right? Hit 10 bombs your freaking senior year of high school, always looking to do damage no matter what. And you might show up on campus someplace where it's California small ball. Guys are bunting the ball around, a bunch of hit and runs nonstop. That's not, you have to find that out before you come in 100%.
If you're a power guy and that's your future in the game at the college level or maybe beyond, might want to reconsider going to a California small ball program.
Yep.
That's on you if you make that mistake. But if you're already there, be aggressive early, because what they don't want are strikeouts, especially with guys in scoring position.
Mm-hmm.
So get real aggressive early.
Mm-hmm.
Always come from a position of power with this stuff, though.
Yep. Because the ball is in your court. When you go on visits, when you get offers, it might not seem like it based on the state you go into that visit on, but this is your future. This is your career, and it is your responsibility to make the right decision so that you can go out there and be your best. But you can also go out there and be your best regardless of what program you choose, which is the foundation of everything that we are about.
Yeah, because you can do everything right and still find out that it was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's on you.
Yep.
To use the tools to navigate it and to produce in spite of it not being perfect, because no place is going to be perfect ever.
Yeah.
And we can't control how the coaches coach. We can't control how they react when the offense is struggling or when the defense is struggling or whatever. It comes back to that quote, and I forget, I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's not about the direction that the wind blows. It's about the set of the sails, the way that we move our sails and adjust and still get to where we're going despite of what the wind's doing. So we have to be flexible. We have to use our tools, use our brains, use our focus, and make the most out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Do everything you can to investigate and to find the right fit. But once you're there, you're there.
Yep.
Make the most of it.
Yep. Kind of like that concept that we talked on episode 1, burn the boats. You're there. You don't want to go in there with that mindset, oh, if I'm not the guy, if it's not everything I'm looking for, then I'll just bounce a break and be a D1 kickback at a junior college. Yes, that might be true, but if you go in there with that mindset, it's not going to go well for you.
No, and you know what? Burn the boats, like you say. Do not think about leaving until it's actually time. But my mindset would be, okay, I don't like it here. This was a mistake. I'm planning on leaving. But right now, I'm going to do everything I can so that when I do leave, it's going to hurt. They're not just going to say, oh, yeah, whatever, dude, leave. I want it to fucking hurt when I leave.
Yep, I love that.
So I'm going to be an absolute monster until it's time to go.
Yep.
And then once you're a monster and you've given it everything that you've got, then there's no regret.
Yep.
Right?
That's so good. Yeah. It's
the only way to do it.
Yeah. And that's what baseball is missing, especially in the younger generation. Guys are going out there with that scarcity mindset out of fear, playing out of fear. This game is not meant to be played out of fear. You were supposed to go out there and carry yourself like you were better than everybody else. Doesn't mean you vocalize it. You don't vocalize it. But you have to go out there and try to abuse people left and right. That guy on the mound might be throwing 95. F that guy. He sucks ass. Like, I'm going to just piss on one right off his shin bone. You know what I mean?
It's the only way to do it, man.
Yep, no doubt.
Especially in inner squads.
Mm-hmm.
Our own pitchers, I wanted to just own those guys. The better the arm, the more I wanted to own that guy. And I Paul O'Malley, to this day, he was so nasty. 93 to 95, loose, whippy, electric with a hammer. He ended up getting drafted in the 4th round. And as a freshman, I just absolutely ripped his tits every time. And if you ask him right now, he would he would remember it.
Yeah.
But the point is, I'm not, oh, look at me. It's not about that. It's about the mindset that produced that.
Yep.
I mean, if you got a number one who's just dominant and everybody's like, oh shit, he's our number one, he's so good. Internally, that dialogue's got to be like, you watch this shit.
Yep.
I'm gonna pull his pants down.
Yep. Same happened to me remember when I showed up at Southeastern the first year before I got hurt. My roommate Damien, little dude who was
filthy.
92 to 96 with a disgusting splitter and a really good slider. Just total, I mean, a dude, right? He's my roommate. He goes in, talking smack, saying he was going to own me in live ABs that next day. I didn't say a word. I'm like, all right, man. All right, yeah, we'll see. But inside, I'm just checking my phone to see when I could get to the field. And he throws me he went inside, wood bat at the field. Everybody's around. All the players are there. Coaches are just hanging out on the side in the dugout. And he throws me a 1-2 splitter down and in, and I hit it about 85 feet over the right field wall. Didn't look at him, didn't say a word, just went back to the dugout. And everybody's like, what the hell was that? I'm like, what? Yeah. And he went from being like this to, oh no. And he's like, hey, I'm sorry. I'm never going to run my mouth to you ever again. And he bought me dinner that night. Yeah.
You know what? Never be the guy that runs his mouth. Let your game do the talking, period.
Yep.
Even if guys are chirping at you, say, yeah, okay, yeah, we'll see. But the internal dialogue is the stuff we're giving you.
Yep.
And that is, all right, dude, you wait. You're getting yours. That's coming.
And that's incredible. And that doesn't just apply to your actions on the field, especially as a freshman. You will get chirped as a freshman. Older guys will test you. Guys will bite at you. And it's not always mean-spirited. It's just culture, right? Wanting to see what freshmen can take it and what guys can't. So when you get there and you're getting chirped early on, day one even, don't push back on it. Don't chirp back. Don't flare up and be a hard ass. Be like, okay, dude. Just like laugh it off. Okay, dude. Do not pay it any mind. But if you go one way or the other, talking smack back and being a hardo, or you just look totally defeated and small, that's a bad first impression, and it's really hard to come back from that. So,
I agree. Don't react.
Yep.
Don't react. Smile. Nod your head. Be a good sport about it. Because you don't want to be either extreme. You don't want to be the insecure guy that wants to fight back. And you definitely don't want to shrink and get small over it.
Yep.
Let your game do the talking. If you're a dude, they'll leave you alone. They'll embrace you.
Yep. And that's important because when you show up on campus for freshmen are always on ball bucket during BP, right? Guys are always getting the extra stuffs, getting set up for BP. They're always grabbing the team bats for road trips. What I saw firsthand is when I was coaching a little bit, and it not only applies there, but it applies at a lot of different programs. Those freshmen push back like, nah, man, I'm not freaking doing that shit. Don't disrespect me like that. That's not what that's about, man. Just do your job.
That's insecurity.
Yeah.
And for the love of it, never go in there and talk about, oh, on this one day against this guy at a perfect game event, you went 5 for 5 with nobody cares about your exploits, dude. And I mean, the world is small enough to where if you're a guy, they probably already know some of that anyway. Never be that guy that talks about how good you are, because first of all, you're just a dick if you do. But then no matter what you do on the field, it's going to be a letdown because you were the guy that talked about how damn good you were. Do not be that guy.
I don't care if they don't hear a word of what we said besides that. That is huge. Do not talk about your freaking high school stats. Do not talk about the other offers you got. Do not talk about how good you are on the field. You're there. Those guys do not give a shit.
No, and you know where that happens most is when the freshmen all get to campus and the freshmen are around the other freshmen. And it's a contest who can talk about how good they were the most.
It's painful.
Do not fall into that. I beg you. I mean it. It is the most no-feel move that you can pull, is being in that conversation and talking over the top of everybody with how good, no, you think you're good. Let me tell you how good I am. Like, there's no bigger dick than that guy.
Yeah, it's so bad. And as soon as you say it to either other freshmen or guys that have been in that program, they're immediately going over during BP and you're like, dude, you would not believe this fucking kid. I mean,
zero feel.
Oh, it's so, and you cannot recover from that.
No, there's no coming back.
No, you
do not do it. I beg you. I'm begging you.
It's so bad. And guys at Southeastern didn't, there was obviously a handful of guys that did, were like, okay, dude, like whatever. And he ended up being a good guy, and one of them didn't, who ended up going in saying he was on a full ride and he had all these other offers. And turns out he's a walk-on and had no other options. And you know exactly who I'm talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
But guys at Southeastern, there were guys that bounced out of Miami, had Florida State offers, like the biggest baseball you can find. And what's funny is when guys come from those kind of programs, a lot of the times the thought of mentioning that doesn't even cross their mind because they have feel and they're secure in who they are as a player. And that's what makes a team culture just that much better.
Yeah, if anything, go the opposite way. Be the guy who was completely undersold it, understated, because the philosophy behind it is the guys who matter, they don't have to convince people and talk about it, how much they matter.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Be the other way.
Yep.
Be the other way.
Yep. It's funny. Guys that are dudes at college baseball programs, you don't find them talking about themselves left and right.
No.
That's good.
Guys who do are just insecure.
Yep.
You might as well put a sign on that says, I'm scared shitless, and I'm wondering if I should even be here.
Yep.
If you're going around talking about your exploits, you might as well get that shirt printed, put your name on the back, with your face printed on the back that says, I'm scared shitless and I'm not sure I belong here. Right?
It's good though. Yeah.
Don't do that.
No. Have anything else?
No, I think we could go way deeper on the culture, the coaching staff, but the fact of the matter is once you've made your commitment, now it's on you. It's your responsibility. None of the coaching staffs out there are perfect. They're human beings just like you.
Yep.
Give them the benefit of the doubt, but navigate it, man. It's not about the direction of the wind. It's how we set the sails. Stay flexible. Keep adjusting those sails.
It's good, man.
Because it can be miserable or it can be a blast, and it's largely on us. It's on how we set those sails.
That's awesome. Well, shoot. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Really good. If you guys have anything that you want us to talk about, comment on the video. We've already gotten some feedback already. It's awesome. We're almost at 200 subscribers, which is, sweet. Growing each day, man. So we made this for you guys, and we're not afraid to dive in and make people a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
so,
and we're not going away either.
We're going to
keep doing it,
brother.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing it.
As soon as we're done with this, we're already talking about the freaking next one. So, all right. Thanks, guys.